Welcome to Organizing Life's Daily Demands. My name is Peter Gordon, and I'm the president of New York Financial Organizers. We're daily money managers. We help people pay their bills, file insurance claims, kind of do all the non-investment side of personal finance, essentially organizing life's daily demands. And the purpose of this podcast is to introduce the viewers and listeners to other companies that help people organize life's daily demands. And today I am thrilled to have Kish Melwani as a guest. He is the owner and founder of ServiceByte, a company that I've been working with for a number of years and a person I really like a lot. Hi, Kish. How are you?
I'm doing well, Peter. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. So we know each other through, as many other guests I know through this way as well, through the Orion Resource Group. I met Kish when he was presenting, and I learned so much in that first presentation. Many things that I do now within my business just from that presentation. And so we got to know each other, and we're working together for him to protect our IT structure. And that's enough about me. So Kish, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, I started in the industry well over 25 years ago at this point. Started young in the industry with IT, and I grew up in New York. I said, hey, let me get started in this technology sphere. I just want to help people, and this is one of the big things I want to do. So I said, all right, let me go and get into this. Right out of high school, I started working for a company.
Wow.
And, for me, it changed everything because I grew up poor, and I needed to get out is the way I saw it. For me, it was an opportunity to do something that can create an impact, not just in other people's lives, but in my own as well. And fortunately, I had an opportunity where I could practice IT, and that is essentially what I started. I had started at an early age doing break fix services, where we were working in a repair shop. Customers would come in with their computers from those old days.
Not cars. You're not doing brakes on cars.
That's right. So break fix meant, hey, my computer's broken, you got to fix it. And it was a great way to cut your teeth early in the industry, getting to really understand people's challenges. I always like to share.
If you tell us the type of computer, then we could guess the time frame.
Sure. My first computer was an IBM PS1.
Never even heard of it.
So an IBM PS1 came out in the 90s, and it had a 486 processor. If you remember those days.
Was that a Pentium?
The Pentium came after that. So this is predating the Pentium. It was right after the Pentium had come out. A long time ago. I guess I'm dating myself a little bit.
That's okay.
But then I started in the industry in the break fix space, worked for a company for about 12 years, and then decided, hey, you know what? I know how to do it better. And it's the age old, I work for somebody else, but now I want to do it myself. And started off on my own business, started ServiceByte in 2011, and been going strong since then. We started actually in the same space that I was working in before, which is helping customers, mostly consumers, home users in their break fix needs. But we quickly pivoted to managed services. And managed services essentially helps us deliver a whole suite of IT services to businesses. Typically, imagine a 10 or 15 person organization, even some as small as one person organizations that need IT, but they don't necessarily need to hire somebody in-house or have somebody that does break fix, because they want somebody that is going to provide more of a comprehensive level of service, something more holistic, right? And Peter, you know this as a client of ours as well. we've had to navigate things like the law, right? Risk mitigation, disaster recovery, situations where businesses have to really see their potential demise and make sure they protect themselves to prevent such a situation.
That's a great way of putting it.
And unfortunately, with our recent data privacy law changes, businesses have had to do a lot more than they're used to. So that means a lot of navigating not just legal requirements that New York State puts out, but also cyber liability insurance requirements that you would need to meet your own insurance needs. So all these types of consistencies that have to be achieved mean that businesses have to invest more in not just their cybersecurity, but their own understanding, right? These organizations now have to have a security officer, right, designated. So all these critical things are things that we're delivering to our clients, but doing it in the way that we know best, which is to make it easy, to make sure that we're being respectful of our clients' time so that this way they can focus on their businesses and we're able to help them in the most impactful and meaningful way that they deserve.
Yeah, that's great. And that's a wonderful thing you said, being, aware of your customer's time. And you are very, very much on point with that. So it's interesting because we're both, I'm in very much of my work is in the senior space, and you are too, to an extent. Tell us about your focus on helping older adults.
Oh, thank you for asking. We do have another arm of our work, of our business. As you know, we had started in the residential break fix space, and what we did over the years is never abandon it. Right? We stuck with the group, and what happened is that we were able to determine a new future for ourselves. We understood that there's a group of individuals in the residential space, older adults mainly, that are a highly vulnerable population. And we say this because we're seeing this from the 2022 FBI report, where they detailed out that the amount of scams and scam activity that's impacting older adults is on the rise to an unforeseen level. And we see this as a call to action for us to help a very important group. We are all going to be older as we age, right? We're all going to need these types of services. And when you see some of the things that are happening to older adults, it is just terrible.
Unfortunately, we're very, very aware of that.
You're seeing cases where people are losing their life savings, and that's leading some older adults to a very extreme depressive state. Some have committed suicide. You also think about the generational impact of what happens to older adults when this kind of thing happens, and their adult children, right? Their adult children are expecting mom and dad.
Everybody in the family.
Yeah, they're expecting mom and dad to take care of themselves, but mom and dad now can't, and now they're relying on the older adults to help them, the adult children. But then also on top of that, mom and dad aren't exactly happy about being scammed out of a lot of money because they intended to leave that behind for their children too.
Right, that was their legacy.
That was their legacy. So we see all these things happening, and we said, hey, we've got to have a program for them that caters to them, that addresses their needs. So we have ServiceByte Home for that. And ServiceByte Home is focused on older adults age 55 plus, specifically catering to their community to make sure they have security, they have backup services, they have us as a resource available to them, and not some scammer to take advantage of them.
So tell us how that works. So, I'm a consumer and I'm interested in that service. What happens?
Sure. So what we do is we first work with the client, the older adult, to make sure that they're being onboarded. As part of their journey is to make sure that we deliver services that we deliver similarly to businesses, but it's going to be a little bit different for home users, right? For the older adult population, we are concerned about things like scammers getting on the phone and trying to get their software on our clients' computers to try to scam them further, to access financial records, to access banking information, to manipulate the person some more. So we put in tools on our computers that actually reduce the state of our clients' abilities on their computers. In other words, we can do more on your computers than you can. And that's by design, so that you don't cause self-harm by the folks that are trying to cause it through their scamming techniques, right?
Right, but it doesn't limit their use of the computer.
It does not limit their use of their computer, because what's great about the way we operate is that we can still give you the flexibility to do things like install software that's approved versus software that may be more of a malicious nature.
Right, you're essentially in the background.
That's right. We also provide education components to our older adults to make sure that they're aware of a lot of the risks that are out there that are preying on them, right? So that they not only have our security and services and backup, the traditional IT services that most providers provide, but they also have this educational component to prepare themselves better, to arm themselves with knowledge. Because as you know from your understanding of the business side of things, people can be manipulated, people can be taken advantage of, and you want to be able to empower a person.
Yeah, we see that all the time. And I mean, we unfortunately, we have some clients who are constantly being abused financially. You know, there are we see a lot of transactions go through that they haven't purchased a service, and then we have to go and reverse it, and it's problematic. And it's something you and I will be talking about very soon, in addition to this. So, so how does that work? Tell us about your interaction, how you interact with the senior who gets your service.
So it is mostly going to be broken up in two sections. One is going to be the technical side, where we provide our services to the client. But the other side is going to be not just knowledge, but that developmental side, where we make sure that we're interfacing not just with them, but their adult children, right? There is this sort of care element to this that goes into our IT services. That is something that's unforeseen, right? That people have not done this before. And I've gone to a lot of our competitors and talked about this, and they're like, well, this is a really amazing thing you're doing. But not a lot of people are doing it. And when you're starting to see that, hey, we're looking at providing security training programs to older adults, more on user security training, for instance, that ends up being a real challenge, because you see that the only institute that's doing it right now are government institutions, right? They're providing some type of training for older adults. In our case, we're going into the rest this year, and I'm really proud about this. We're doing custom training for older adults because no one else is doing it.
How
we're coming up with our own tools.
How are you accomplishing that?
So it's called an LMS, a learning management system, right? There are plenty of learning management systems out there. A lot of us are familiar with services where you're going online, taking a course or taking some type of training, and then you're being asked some questions after you're watching a video or some type of slide, and then you answer those questions that validates your knowledge, right? But what we're doing in our case is we're doing the videos ourselves. We're making sure that the videos are not essentially business speak, because our older adult population doesn't understand business email compromise. That doesn't make sense. They're not running a business. They're not working in a business.
No, you speak to the client.
Exactly. They're just doing their day-to-day work or the day-to-day life living, right? They're just enjoying seeing pictures, surfing the web, but then they get these things that happen. And there's this understanding that older adults, as we age, we run into situations where, hey, maybe we want to have that conversation with somebody. Maybe we have some more free time where we want to engage somebody. We just don't want that somebody to be a scammer. And that's how we approach this.
Yeah. That's great. That's really great. And so tell me again, or explain a little more. Are you scanning the systems on a regular basis? How does that work?
Thank you. So the way we operate is we put in some remote access tools on the computer so we can have remote access. We also install endpoint security, so this way we can secure the computer and continue to have access to that security. We also put in a backup service that makes sure that our clients' information is being backed up just in case, because unforeseen things can happen, right? And we also make sure we put in some elevation controls. Elevation controls essentially limit the older adults' use of the computer so they can mostly use it, but not install and upgrade services that are foreign to them. And then, of course, is the educational component, which we, of course, do right now through our service desk as we're building out more of a user security awareness training program later this year. I'm also excited to report that we are planning to also introduce a identity theft system into our older adult program, which is going to create a significant impact in protecting them.
What does that look like?
So right now, it is a arrangement with I believe it's a TransUnion, one of those third parties,
Right.
And essentially what they do is they provide a added service that essentially makes it easier for you to manage the identity side, where you can essentially, it's almost like security protection for your computer, where you could be notified when somebody is trying to tamper with your identity, where you can essentially then take action sooner rather than later, because no one wants to be in a situation where they're about to lease a car and they see, well, somebody has a loan for a house under your name, and you can't get that car until you take care of this other issue. Oh, and also you have identity theft, right? Now all of a sudden you're spending all of your time trying to wrestle with this. We don't want that to happen. So that's why we put in all these security things in there, but then also make sure that you're doing your part by also developing your own knowledge and your skills.
So I have a client that called and said, "Oh, I got a call from Chase that said that I had applied for a credit card, and it was being used in another state, and I actually had that same scam happen to me a number of times, and they're looking for information, and they had all his information, and he was really, obviously upset about it. So I decided to call the AARP fraud hotline, and they were fantastic. And they suggested talking to, putting a not a credit freeze, but a fraud alert, and do it through TransUnion. They suggested TransUnion was the best to do that with. And there's no charge to it. And so I'm really happy to hear that you're working with TransUnion.
Thank you. Thank you. Glad to hear that feedback as well from you on that.
Yeah, no, it's as I said, well, it's fascinating because I try, I'm on the receiving end of a lot of scams on the on emails, and I could talk about it for a long time. Jacob and I do a fraud and preventing scams and fraud presentation, and so you really brought that up. The way these things work is I have this is not going to come as a surprise, but I have my guests ask questions that they tell me questions they'd like me to ask. And you had a fantastic question. That last question was, how do you organize life's daily demands? Which is very much on point. Not everybody does that. So why don't you tell us?
Oh, it's a doozy, right? Being in the positions that we are as leaders of organizations, how do we organize life's daily demands? I'm a people-centric person, so I will share that I have a great team, and they help me.
And I will second that. Wonderful people. Incredible service.
My team really makes a difference in my life and their lives. We all work together. We rely on each other. There are times where we might have 100 things to do, and somebody comes over and says, I'll take care of 20 of those. You take care of 10, somebody else take care of these others. We make sure that we work together to get it done. On the day-to-day business side, we have a help desk system, and our help desk makes it easy for us to manage our clients' needs, where we all have ticketing, for instance, right? We have a calendar system that makes it easier as well. I'm a big fan of Calendly. It's a great tool where you can just communicate with somebody and say, hey, let's set up a meeting. And not only will these calendar, and there's so many of these types of scheduling system, Calendly is not the only one, but they will allow you to coordinate a time without having to have these back and forth conversations of, does Tuesday at 4 p.m. work? How about Wednesday at 9? No, instead with these tools, somebody can just click a link, they can see your entire calendar, and they can just go ahead and book, and I will share that this is something that I use for interviews, something that with people that I'm interviewing, right? With client conversations, meetings, cybersecurity discussions. It is one of the most efficient ways to make sure your calendar gets booked, but also is organized in a way where you can have gaps, so you can leave yourself some time in between to catch your breath, right? If we're organizing life's daily demands, then this is one way to do it. And I wouldn't be surprised if I use my personal life at some point. Hopefully not, but who knows?
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I think about that myself. We use it, and sometimes people don't want to use it. I'll put a link, when they say, "Oh, we should talk," and I'll put a link, click here to set up an appointment, and they don't quite get it, but that's okay. More and more people will.
More and more people will. Oh, and one last thing, Peter. Lots of coffee.
I'm actually drinking mushroom coffee.
Mushroom coffee.
Yeah,
Interesting.
Maybe that's
what kind of mushrooms?
All different. A different blend. Called Rise. This is not a commercial for them, but I'm enjoying that. Anyway, so Kish, this was fantastic. I really appreciate you spending some time with us and talking about your services, and the focus on older adults is great. And we'll be talking about that very soon together. It's something really we should be focusing on with our clients, an outside service. So thanks again.
Thank you, Peter.
You're welcome. Okay, everybody. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I look forward to seeing you at the next video or having you hear us on my next podcast. Take care.